Welcome to what, in my never humble opinion, is the greatest week of the year, Best Driver's Car. For those of you who don't know how it works, every year we ask all the auto manufacturers for their hottest new metal. Performance cars, muscle cars, sports cars, supercars, hypercars, doesn't matter. If it's new, fast, sexy, and loud, we want it. Once we get all the cars, we then hand them over to our testing team, who puts them through the standard battery of MotorTrend performance testing. That's things like quarter mile, 0 to 60, braking, figure eight, that kind of stuff. Next, we come here, Highway 198, where our friends of the California Highway Patrol shut down a 4-mile section of this road, turning it into an almost too good to be true hill climb. These guys, my colleagues, the editors, they then jump into all these cars, turn everything into sport, and fly up that hill as fast as they can before making a U-turn at the top and heading back down. The last piece of the puzzle is Randy Pobst, professional race car driver who takes every one of these cars around Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca as fast as he can, setting lap times. At that point, all of that data is put into a blender, we sit down, we cry, we scream, we kick, we argue, and one of these cars is named the 2015 MotorTrend Best Driver's Car. Any questions? Didn't think so. And we've had our friends in the California CHP shut down this road for us so that me and my colleagues can fly up this hill as fast as we like. And it's actually awesome. They shut down a 4-mile stretch that gives us a 4-mile hill climb, and then whatever the opposite of a hill climb is, I guess it's a race to the bottom. The best part, that's not even a guideline. Until actually when you're going downhill, that last corner there onto the big front straight, you want to be going at least double. All right. Here goes the Mazda Miata.
So I'm about to try the heaviest car here by about 800 pounds. But of course everyone knows Bentley Continentals handle a little bit lighter than they are, and this is the lightest of them. So I'm expecting it to be the best Continental I've driven.
I'm in the Ats-V and I'm looking forward to it.
Are we supposed to be doing burnouts?
Just feels so well sorted. Everything about it it handles every corner really well. Compared to some of the other vehicles I've driven already, this one just goes through every corner faster. It's really an incredible machine. One thing I don't like is the clutch on this thing is way too heavy. You want to drive it on a really nice road like this. You don't want to drive it in traffic. What I always like on a car is to have real direct linear braking. The harder I press the pedal, the harder it brakes. And the GT4 does that perfectly. It just never pushes or pulls to one side. Even if you're braking through a corner, which you're really not supposed to do, it just slows the car down really nicely.
So this is my first time driving the new Mazda MX-5 Miata. And you know, this is not the fastest car here by any stretch of the imagination. It's got the smallest engine, 2-liter, 4-cylinder, no turbo, makes only 155 horsepower. It's slow, but that doesn't mean it's not a hell of a lot of fun out here, because this thing only weighs about 2,300 pounds with people and fuel inside. It's awesome. I'm basically driving with my foot to the floor. You know, I'm able to talk to you as I carve up these corners. That's because this chassis is so poised, so completely balanced, that I can just chuck it into corners. I don't know if you can hear that engine note. It sounds phenomenal out here. We had the top down. It's the only convertible here in the mix. And man, this thing is awesome.
So
we got here this morning, there was nobody here. And I was talking to the officers and they're like, oh, it won't be a busy traffic day at all. And then the very first road closure that we do for 10 minutes at a time, the entire National Guard from the local National Guard base over the hill shows up, and now we're blocking a whole bunch of huge military trucks. Oops. Oops.
So we're gonna have a little problem with the Z6. Nate on his last run reported lack of boost on the way up and on the way down. We opened the hood, cooled it down for a long time. We disconnected the battery, and then I kind of babied it up the hill this last time, and you get a little bit of boost for maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 seconds, and then it goes away. So for purposes of road handling, we're gonna keep it in the loop for now. I think we can still feel turn in and grip and braking and all the rest of that. The steering feel, I actually almost kind of liked it better in the Ats-V that I drove up here. I haven't done a run on 198 yet, but that car has smaller front tires, and I think that gives it a little bit lighter steering feel. This one really feels like it's communicating through gigantic tires, which always sort of blunts the information a little bit.
Golf, spelled backwards, is flawed, and that's going to be my driving style.
Rcf should have all of the right ingredients to do this well. It's got all the best bits of the IS and GS sedans that we love, plus a torque vectoring rear diff, and yet somehow it's quick, but it just doesn't make you want to love it. Although I must say it's doing better on this road than I thought I would. I think my tits are going to hit me in the face, though. It's a little bouncy. Oh, or that one was there. This RCF was kind of a new thing for Lexus to go back into the performance arena, and they got some things right and then some things really wrong, like the car won't let you do a burnout. I don't know if I want Lexus to go back to building like mommy mobiles, or to go back to the drawing board and try for stuff like this, because the IS and GS are so good, and then they did this and I'm like, nah, oh.
I'm super impressed with the Mercedes Amg GTS. Driven a lot of Benzes. I've got to say, this is the best handling Benz I've ever driven. I think the AMG GTS is going to be a pretty strong contender for best driver's car. There's probably, of all the cars I've driven today, there's probably only one other that comes close to being the all-round package in terms of being a great driver's car. This takes all the qualities of a best driver's car and amps them right up to 11. I can't think of too many other cars that I've yet to drive that are going to be able to equal this.
So, tell me about this car.
You know, it's one of those things where you want a good driver really enjoys driving a slower car faster. And this certainly doesn't have the power of anything else that's out here. But man, what a blast it is to drive.
The one that surprised me the most, the biggest surprise, is the Bentley. The 5,000 pound all-wheel drive Bentley was probably the biggest, funnest, craziest surprise of all. It was really surprisingly capable. And the two things that it had going for it in terms of confidence were these amazing brakes, these gigantic carbon ceramic discs, and it had all-wheel drive. So mid-corner, if you get in trouble, solution is go to the throttle. You know, if you're approaching a corner too fast, you think jam on the brake, and it worked.
So far, one of the big disappointments, I know a lot of people have really liked the Bentley, but I didn't like it at all. I just kind of thought it was really big and really heavy and kind of slides around a lot, and it may be the best driver's car for really, really rich people, but I don't think for the everyday driver they're going to have that much fun with it.
Oh man, it was good downhill. The CTS has got a great transmission program in the race mode. Always had the right gear. I changed my mind. It does feel like 640 horsepower. I drove a 400 horsepower car and it was a dog. Great seats, like Cadillac comfortable but supportive at the same time, even on my skinny bod.
I just got out of the C63 Amg. It's fast, there's so much power. Getting the yellow traction control light blinking at 120 at the top straight up there means it's still making power at 120.
Well, we've got one more run today here on Route 198, our demanding road section for Best Driver's Car. And I think even though there's one car left, the judges' opinions coalescing around 3 contenders for tomorrow, and there's a truck coming down. One is Mazda's delightful little Miata, an absolute purist sports car. The other is Porsche's Cayman GT4, the utter distillation of everything Porsche knows about building sports cars. And finally, a real favorite, the thundering Mercedes AMG GTS, twin-turbo 4-litre V8. It's an absolute blast to drive up this hill. We go to Laguna Seca, but Best Driver's Car is more than just lap times around a racetrack. Today's section will be very important in deciding the winner.
Well, I am standing here at one of my favorite places, Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. It's Best Driver's Car Week, and that was Randy Pobst flying by in a Cadillac Ats-V. Randy actually has 10 different cars to get through, and what he's doing right now is he's setting a hot lap. Basically, we give him 3 laps in each car, and he's such a good driver that the times are really close together. Weirdly, his first lap is his fastest lap because the tires and the brakes start to degrade, because after all, these are production cars, not race cars. Anyways, the whole thing's a lot of fun. First up, the Mazda Miata.
Well, we're getting going with the Best Driver's Car hot lapping, and we're starting with the home team, the Mazda Miata MX-5. I already know it's going to be great fun. The engine's actually pretty torquey in the mid-range. It's not a rever. Great shift, light and quick. Don't overslow the entries. Get to the power early. Just land like a butterfly landing on a leaf when you get on that brake pedal. I feel like a cyborg. You know, Albert, this thing is actually driving for me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I felt that. The impression I have is softness. Really a soft car, lots of body roll that happens quickly. So it has to be driven like this. With a light touch on the steering, light touch on the brakes. And I got some brake fade, which surprised me. I did not expect brake fade. Meant the pedal was pretty low and hard to match revs, some ugly downshifts. Great shifter, quick and fast. The Miata is defined by its lightness, very much in the traditional sports car sense of an AMG Triumph Spitfire from before I was a kid even. It's that kind of car. And not a great lap time, but a great enjoyment, fun car.
So the first car's in. Our testing director, Kim Reynolds, has checked the data on the cards and everything looks good. So he's in the process of changing out all the test gear into our next vehicle. So that means pulling out the V-boxes, taking off the antennas, and getting the next car ready to go.
Are you following?
You're up. All right.
Don't worry about it.
Boy, set. There we go. Takes a lot of brake effort, high pedal effort, you know what I'm saying? What I seem to love about any AMG product I've driven for the last 10 years is the meaty feel of the torque from the engine. And this AMG C63S continues that. I love the engine. It's a 4-liter turbo V8, a hot V, which puts the turbos inside the V, which shortens all the intake and turbo running. It feels like a normally aspirated 7-liter. It has delicious power immediately upon opening the throttle. That is an unusual experience. A Cadillac with a stick shift that I can keep my foot on the floor and just flat shift it because it has an engine kill. And V6, twin turbo V6, it's really happy on the racetrack. It just blows my mind out of a Cadillac, but having raced them for years in Pirelli World Challenge, I guess it shouldn't be too big a surprise. Good chassis, well balanced. Nice firm brake pedal. Where's my drifty? I think the rear tires got warmed up. All-wheel drive pulls you right out of the corner. No wheel spin, that's for sure. Tendency to understeer through the middle of the corner. It's a primary handling characteristic. Little push on power too. Not as drifty as it was on the cold tires. I liked it better on cold tires. You can all-wheel drive it right across the AstroTurf.
So at MotorTrend, we love data, and this year we're getting a lot of extra data in addition to the normal stuff we get from the GPS gear that we put on every car. We've wired Randy up to measure his heart rate in 2 different places, his skin conductivity, like they do on lie detector tests, and the motion of his wrists. We're also having a camera looking at his face. We're going to try and reduce from that information which of these cars he's the most under stress driving. So he might get a great lap time on one car, but it's a lot more work to do it than another car.
Pushing 9. We shouldn't be laughing, it's kind of hurting the lap time. Oh, there we got a gear this time. Nice sweetheart of a car to drive. Perfectly at home on the racetrack. Feels like a race car except for that understeer. A little too much.
You guys still have expectations for this one?
Good expectations.
Yeah, it should be quick. But we're talking about as quick as a 911 Carrera S. 38.85.
So it's like 0.6 off a Carrera 4S.
As good as it was on the road up at Highway 98, it's just not at home on the racetrack. It's a big luxury car, powerful, enormous brakes, but still overwhelmed by its weight. Oh, I don't know if I've ever driven a better handling car. I love it that much. Broad spread of torque, 0 lag. Beyond that, I love the styling inside and out.
The driver's dilemma, stick shift or automatic. You know, a couple of years ago, that was a no-brainer. You chose the stick shift every time. But that's changed in the last few years with the new generation of automatics and dual-clutch automated manuals. We've tested both these Cadillac Ats-Vs, stick shift and automatic, right here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. And guess what? The automatic's quicker.
Well, that was an exercise in frustration. The Corvette has really, really strong brakes, tremendous grip in the corners. It's not running right, and it was getting worse too. It's just not making power. It's misfiring, feels lazy, feels like about a 62 Ford Falcon going down the straights. So that's frustrating. I feel bad for the GM guys because I know what a great car this can be. But it didn't run right at our highway test, and I'm afraid it's still not run right at all.
First, I'd like to apologize for looking like a mime on acid. I'm testing out the 8 billion SPF sunblock today. but I think your question was, what does best driver's car mean to me? And it means really what it says. It's not best handling car. We got rid of that name for a reason, but it's the most fun and rewarding and engaging to drive. It's the one that you really want to take out on a road, because nobody takes their cars to a track that often. Even people that have track cars don't go every day or even necessarily once a week.
Best driver's car for me, it's the whole package. Unlike some of the other books that do something really specific and, one lap is the best thing in the world. Well, this is a much more complete package, and it produces a winner that's truly an enthusiast choice.
Well, friends, this wraps up the Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca portion of the 2015 MotorTrend Best Driver's Car. And now that we have our final data point, it is time to select a winner and a whole bunch of losers.
Okay, we've had 1 day's driving on Route 198 and 2 days testing at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Now, a change of scenery. 10 contenders, but only one can be MotorTrend's 2015 Best Driver's Car. It's time to narrow the field, so let's get started.
The Corvette Z6 was one of the cars that we thought was going to be a real contender. 650 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque, blistering during our testing. However, you come to Best Driver's Car with the car you get, not the car you want. And the Corvette broke down. As for what went wrong, we're still not entirely sure. And that seemed to be the answer that we got from Chevrolet on what exactly was wrong with it. So this car comes in last during Best Driver's Car.
Now in 9th place, we have the Volkswagen Golf R. Now we should be perfectly clear here. If this is the one car you're gonna put in your garage, you would be perfectly happy with it. As a driver's car, absolutely nothing wrong with it. Turbocharged engine, great power delivery, excellent steering, beautiful handling. But then when you look at the field, it's really punching way above its weight. We're talking about an economy car that's been tuned all the way up to compete with some really, really heavy hitters. And in that regard, it leaves a little bit to be desired. On the racetrack, on Highway 198, it delivers a very fun and exciting driving experience, but against the field here, it's just not our best driver's car.
In 8th place, the Lexus Rcf. Now there's a lot we like about this car. The 5-liter V8, it's powerful, it sounds great. The 8-speed transmission, this is one of the best high-performance automatics around today. And the brakes, they were strong and the car felt very stable in the brake zones. Of course, there's plenty we did not like. And the stiff suspension, on anything but smooth roads, this car can feel very unsettled. And the handling, we just felt there was too much understeer with this car. And on the track, our pro driver Randy Pobst found it too inconsistent, lap after lap, to inspire much confidence. For those reasons, the RCF is not our best driver's car.
There's much to love about the new Cadillac Ats-V. Its 464 horsepower, 445 pound-feet twin-turbo V6 and ultralight bodywork give it some of the best-in-class performance. It offers a choice of manual or automatic transmission, 2- or 4-door bodywork. It looks great, and the interior fits us all really well. But there are a few nits to pick. The variable effort steering has a very heavy, gluey feel in the more engaging sport and track modes of driving, and we think that the twin turbos kind of stifle the really nice engine note that we get in some other cars. But the biggest problem for the Ats-V was that we all enjoyed driving one of its chief competitors at this competition more than we did this one, and that was the Mercedes-Amg C63.
CTS-V is a solid sports sedan with 640 horsepower and 630 pound-feet of torque. Of course, we love that power and all the speed that it created, as well as its balance in the corners. What we weren't too fond of were brakes that required a little too much effort to engage, and also a somewhat tricky application of power, and that's why it's 6th place.
Well, we've chopped through the bottom half. Now we're at the top half, and the number 5 car is...
The Bentley Continental GT3R. Who would have thunk?
$350,000, 4,900 pounds, 591 horsepower.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool numbers.
It's amazing, and that's part of the reason. It's just so ridiculous that Bentley would even build such a car. We took it to the test track. It went 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds, which was pretty mind-blowing. Guys got it out on Highway 198, and were equally impressed. It's like, wow, this is a real driver's car.
Yeah, it had great steering. I mean, it still has hydraulic steering.
One of the few.
Yeah, it's great steering. On 198, the brakes were great. They kind of had a hard time on the track, but they were, they felt great. Power for days, and it was fun. Everyone got out of the car laughing.
Yeah, yeah. And the problem is, eventually, once we got it to Laguna Seca, there are about 5,000 reasons why it didn't quite measure up to some of the other ones. It really is very nose heavy and really hard on the front tires, which didn't really show up until we were really on the limit at Laguna Seca.
Well, 5th, pretty good for Bentley. Now on to number 4, something like that.
Well, sedans always come to best driver's car with a bit of a disadvantage. They're carrying a couple of extra doors, a bit of extra weight, and that tends to count against them in terms of ultimate performance and ultimate drivability on the track. So the fact that the Mercedes-Benz C63 Amg is in 4th place is a pretty good achievement, Scott.
It is. I mean, this is a really very great sedan here. We were talking about it just a bit before we went on camera, and we kind of asked around with it, is there a better sports sedan on the market right now? And we couldn't really come up with an answer for that. This really is a fantastic car. So it's not that we don't like the C63, it's that it's up against some really incredible machinery here. And this one's very good both on the road and on the track, but you're dealing with a bit more weight, a bit higher center of gravity. When it comes down to the absolute driver's car, there's other cars that do it just a bit better.
Okay, so you've probably been keeping track and you realize there's 3 cars left, and they're all pretty good ones. So here's where the real arguments begin. Well, here they are, the 3 final contenders for MotorTrend's 2015 Best Drivers Car competition. And I've got to say, these are amazing cars, every one of them.
It's a tough year. Right now, I think I'm leaning towards the Porsche because it's got the recipe. It's mid-engine, it's got 911 power, manual transmission, and it's light.
Light? That Porker
it's Porsche.
The Porker Porsche is 700 pounds heavier than the Miata, and before you say a word about that moose of a Mercedes, it's 1,400 pounds heavier than the Miata. The driver car recipe is rear-wheel drive, stick shift, lightweight. And let's not forget that the Miata starts at 20-something grand on top of it all. That's,
Well, look, okay, but I defy either of you to deny the fact that when you got out of the Amg GTS at the top of Route 198, it was like you'd had a religious experience. That power, the traction, the turn-in response, and of course the noise from that engine. Unbelievable.
I think you both made really good points, and that's the problem. These are 3 great drivers' cars.
3 great drivers' cars. There's only going to be one way to decide which one is the best driver's car. I think we've got to go for a drive.
Do it.
Yeah, the Miata doesn't really do planted rear wheel. Man, it's a Rough Rider.
You must be busier than a ringer outer for a one-arm paper hanger in that car.
Well, I'm trying to keep up with you guys with double the horsepower. Well, what I'm sort of bummed about with this thing that came in here is that I've shifted once. I went from 1st to 2nd, and there's just no reason to shift. I don't have that problem of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
I'm just cruising, boys. This thing's got all the power and all the torque in the world, and that dual clutch is just doing all the thinking for me.
Boring.
They're all good. They're all really good.
Yeah, we're down to picking nits here.
Yep. What is with Porsche? 83 miles an hour in 2nd gear I saw on the Speedo. what's the point of making a car with a stick and then giving it a gear that you can use around town and on the interstate?
It's like they're pulling a scam, like, right? Like, oh, this car is stick shift only, it's only for the purists, and you never have to shift it.
If you adjust the gearing on the car so it has a normal like 65 mile an hour second gear, it would have been a 3.5 to 60 instead of a 4.1. So they not only cost themselves the numbers, they cost themselves the driving experience too.
Yeah.
And that motor is unbelievable. The noise that thing makes.
That's funny too. It's got to be different piping because that's the Carrera S motor, but man, it sounds so much more mechanical.
I mean, and imagine if you got to run through the gears.
That's the beauty of Porsches. That engine, it sounds like you're on the Mulsanne Straight at Le Mans in the middle of the night. I mean, and that's part of the heart and soul of a great Porsche. But I just think, yeah, you're right. The gearing is just a misstep. The Miata was interesting though. I mean, I love the car. I think it's so much like the original Miata. I mean, and to pull the weight out of the car,
unbelievable.
And it is a real pure sports car like they used to make them.
Right.
But I think it's just a little too soft in the suspension.
I wanted that car to be the winner. I want to reward Mazda for pulling the weight out of it and making it smaller and more delicate. But what is with that turn it? I mean, you're approaching a corner, you turn the wheel this much, and the back end heaves over, and you think it's going to go around. It doesn't really do it, but it's just not confidence inspiring.
Like, it's great. It's here. It's podium finisher, but it doesn't have that, like, wow, I can't stop thinking about this car, which I think that one has.
Yeah.
And I love that. What I really love actually was they can learn everything that was wrong with the SLS. They fixed, right? Impractical doors, gone. No trunk space for a road trip whatsoever, gone. It had a dual clutch, but it was kind of lazy and messed up. Way better.
The handling on the SLS was in great shape.
Yeah, as Kim would always say, like, how did this even leave the factory, right?
Sideways.
Yeah.
Backwards, actually, through the door.
Yeah, but this handles, you know what I mean? Like, everything is better.
I don't know how they turned the SLS into this. I don't know how that step happened.
So it's the engine and transmission mounts.
And I guess, and probably everything else. I mean, whatever they did, they made one hell of a sports car out of that. And I think the interesting thing is we can criticize all the cars for a little niggle here or there, but there's really nothing to moan about on that.
Coming up
on the
blank.
AMG.
Coming up blank.
I think it was kind of the best on, like, tootling around. It was kind of the best on the back roads, kind of the best on track. I kind of think
It is the best, I think, and I think we're all in agreement that the MotorTrend 2015 best driver's car is the Mercedes AMG GTS.